I analyzed 25 5,000 meter Olympic champions. Here is what they have in common. The 5,000 meters is the most brutal chess match on the track. It demands an extraordinary physiological paradox. You must possess the absolute aerobic engine of a marathoner, completely fused with the explosive fast twitch kick of a 1500 meter specialist. If you lack the engine, you get purged from the train by lap 9. If you lack the kick, you're just a passenger watching the podium slide away from you on the backstretch. To find out exactly what separates an Olympic champion from the rest of the field, I built a data set analyzing the last 25 Olympic 5,000 meter gold medalists. That's 18 men and 7 women. I mapped their exact race day ages, their body mass index, tactical positioning metrics, historical racing splits, and more, spanning from Murray Hellberg's desperate iconic solo break in 1960 to the modern clinical dominance of Jakob Ingebrigtsen in 2024. The data reveals that winning an Olympic gold medal over 12.5 laps is never an accident. It comes down to 6 highly specific, non-negotiable variables. Let's break down the data. First off, here are the Olympic champions for both men and women since 1960 who are the subjects of our video. It's worth to note that the 5,000 meter wasn't an Olympic event for women until 1996 in Atlanta, so we have them all here too. First, let's look at age. At what age have you accumulated enough training to be an aerobic monster, as well as have the speed to close a blistering last lap? Too old, and your anaerobic capacity has declined too much to keep up in the final sprint, and too young, you haven't accumulated enough training volume to match the pace of a fast race. The average age of every champion was 26.7 years old, with the average age of males being 27.1 and the average age of females being 25.9. Why is this age so highly represented? It comes down to the optimization of 2 distinct energy production pathways: a runner's aerobic engine, their maximal oxygen uptake, their VO2 max, and capillary density. Takes years of high mileage volume to fully mature. However, pure anaerobic capacity and top-end fast-twitch muscle fibers begin a gradual decline after an athlete's mid to late 20s. The athletes who win the Olympics find themselves in the perfect evolutionary intersection. They have accumulated 8 to 10 years of consistent elite aerobic base building to handle the continuous pace, yet still retain the necessary muscular power to explode into a sub-53 second last final lap. However, in contrast to the 1500 meter, 5000 meter Olympic athletes can win at a variety of ages. The youngest 1500 meter champion ever was Asbel Kiprop in 2008. He was 19 years old, compared to the youngest 5000 meter champion, Million Wold, being 21 in 2004. That's somewhat comparable, but on the older side, you see a different story. There are only 2 athletes who have won the Olympics in the 1500 meter who were 30 or older. Both of them are female, being Kipyegon and Holmes. There were 4 Olympic champions in the 5,000 meter who were 30 or older, the oldest being Miruts Yifter, who was 36 years old when he won. This just tells you that being an aging athlete is a little more merciful in the 5,000 meter, and that your championship window is longer compared to the shorter distances. You can see more of what makes a 1500 meter Olympic champion in my last video I did found here. Next, we're looking at the physical attributes of these Olympic champions. What height, weight, and BMI do you have to have in order to win the Olympics? For height, there was a lack of uniformity for both men and women, with their heights ranging from 5'5" with the likes of Bekele to 6'1" to Jakob Ingebrigtsen, with all of the men averaging around 5'9.5 inches. Very average for the general population. For women, that range is 4'11" to 5'7", with the average height being 5'2.5 inches. Again, very average. With weight, we see a different story. In a 5,000 meter race, every single extra kilogram of body mass drastically increases the metabolic cost of running. It forces the cardiovascular system to deliver more oxygen to non-propulsive tissue, accelerating glycogen depletion. The elite 5,000 meter champion must possess extreme power to weight optimization. They carry just enough lower limb musculature to generate elite ground reaction forces, but absolutely zero excess upper body mass, allowing them to glide at sub 240 per kilometer pace while keeping their blood lactate levels well below anaerobic threshold. This is why we saw the average weight of men and women being a paltry 132 and 99 pounds respectively, bringing the average BMI to 19.3 for men and 17.5 for women. Out of the last 25 Olympic 5,000 meter champions, only 3 athletes had a BMI higher than 20. However, one of those athletes that had a BMI over 20 was Kenesile Bekele, arguably the best distance runner ever, so take that how you will. Ultimately, the data paints a picture of extreme specialized efficiency. While the average Olympic 5,000 meter champion isn't required to fit a specific height profile, they are absolutely required to meet a strict power to weight ratio. The champion's physiological signature is not defined by height, but by a universally low BMI. A testament to a decade of relentless training that strips away all non-essential mass, ensuring every watt of power is dedicated to forward propulsion. This tight BMI envelope is the non-negotiable physical requirement for dominating the 12.5 lap race. Really quickly, guys, if you're enjoying this video, please like and subscribe down below. Back to the video. When we look at the personal best of these athletes in the 1500 meter and 10,000 meter, we find that there is not much commonality as you would have thought. There are cases where athletes have a world-class 1500 meters and a relatively subpar 10,000. And there are athletes who haven't run a fast 1500 and have a blistering fast 10,000 meter. It seems like the 5,000 meter is the perfect gateway for exiting the middle distance realm and taking a step into the long distance one. You have athletes stepping up and athletes stepping down. 11 of the last 25 Olympic champions had a personal best within 25 seconds of the 10,000 meter world record at the time, while 9 of the champions had a personal best within 3.75 seconds of the 1500 meter world record at the time. In fact, we have the same amount of men within that time range for both the 1500 and 10,000, yet we see half the amount of women within the striking distance of the 1500 meter world record. Maybe we can draw the conclusion that the 5,000 meter is a much more aerobic race for women than it is for men, and therefore the 1500 meter is less important, but it's tough to make that conclusion outright considering the small sample size compared to the men. We also see athletes being more versatile in the last 26 years as their 1500 meter and 10,000 meter personal bests are getting faster. You still see athletes like Cheptegei, who is a 5,000 meter and 10,000 meter runner outright, but the likes of Mo Farah and Jakob Ingebrigtsen have a world-class 10K as well as a world-class 1500. I know I'm going to get some flack saying Ingebrigtsen is fast in the 10K with a personal best of 27:27, but if you're winning the European cross-country championship every year, I really don't care what those people have to say. You're good at the 10K. But a commonality amongst 5,000 meter runners is that you really should be a world-class runner in the 1500 or the 10,000 meters if you want to win the Olympics. You need to be able to hold on and kick at the end, or be able to run an uncomfortably fast pace for the whole race and still have a decent kick at the end anyways. When you map the strategic execution of these 25 champions, the data clearly separates them into two distinct operational profiles. I call them the rhythm monsters and the surgical kickers. Understanding which profile a runner possesses dictates exactly how they must approach the final 2,000 meters of an Olympic final. The rhythm monsters are aerobic engines that squeeze the life out of the field through sustained, high-intensity aerobic pressure. These are runners like John Ngugi in 1988, Bekele in 2008, and Cheptegei in 2021. And if you're the defending world record holder like Bekele or Cheptegei, then there's literally no one better in the field at doing this than you. John Ngugi's 1988 final is a textbook manifestation of this strategy. I know I'm butchering his name, I'm trying as hard as I can. He hit the front 1,000 meters in, establishing a devastating, unrelenting rhythm that completely broke the field's drafting protection, forcing everyone into a highly inefficient chase. Bekele executed a similar strategy in Beijing 2008, though later in the race than Ngugi did, dropping a historic 12:57.82 Olympic record by operating at a high, steady aerobic pace. The last 2,000 meters of this race, Bekele systematically drained the kick out of Eliud Kipchoge of all people. The rhythm monster relies on high aerobic capacity to force the entire field into severe oxygen debt before the final bell even rings. So even if they are there, they're a shell of themselves they were compared to 5 laps ago. The surgical kickers operate with an entirely different tactical objective. These runners are the like of Dieter Bowerman in 1992, Hikam El Garouge in 2004, and Mo Farah in 2012 and 2016. They want the early and middle portions of the race to be as slow and pedestrian as possible. Look at Mo Farah's masterpiece in 2012. The first kilometer was covered in a highly conservative 2:55, a casual jog for international athletes at this level. This slow pace ensured Farah conserved 100% of his muscle glycogen stores, preventing any premature buildup of fatigue. By turning the Olympic final into a 13:41 tactical affair, Farah transformed a test of ultimate distance endurance into a pure speed competition over the final lap. The surgical kicker wins by weaponizing patience, staying completely relaxed in the pack, and utilizing a lethal change of gear the pure distance runners simply cannot match. In a 5,000 meter race, the ultimate tactical inflection point occurs somewhere between 4,200 and 4,600 meters most of the time. Up until this point, the pack is typically bunched together in a long line. By the time there's one lap left, the field is already stringing out. The spaces between the athletes are getting wider. The pace is quicker. There are obvious exceptions to this, like London 2012, but I digress. This massive surge between 42 and 4,600 meters acts as a physical filter. It instantly creates a severe separation between two groups of runners. One, the aerobically overextended. These are the athletes who are already operating right at their maximum aerobic limit just to maintain the previous pace. When the injection of speed happens, they instantly cross their anaerobic threshold, accumulate an unmanageable amount of blood lactate, and physically fade out the back of the pack. 2, the elite contenders. These are the select few runners that possess the efficiency to match the surge while remaining completely controlled, smoothly transitioning to their anaerobic reserves without breaking form. And when there is one lap remaining, the winner of the race has already positioned themselves properly. Here is a table of how many of these athletes were in which place going into the final lap. 8 were in first place. 10 were in second, 3 were in third, 2 were in fourth, and 2 were in fifth. Nobody outside of the top 5 going into the final lap has ever won the Olympics going back to 1960. And a staggering 18 of these athletes, that's 72% of them, weren't outside of the top 2. These are strikingly similar and equally as brutal to the 1500 meter mentioned in my last video. There are 16 people in an Olympic 5,000 meter final, and if you're not in the top 5 with one lap to go, you're done for. No chance of winning. And if you're outside of the top 3, those odds are still against you, being an 84% chance you will lose. So between 4,200 meters and 4,600 meters, match the surge and claim your spot with one lap to go. Give yourself a chance to become an Olympic champion. If you survive the physical demands of the first 11 laps, you are met with the final definitive requirement for Olympic gold. You must possess a 53-second closing engine off a moderately paced race. The data from the modern era of the 5,000 meters at the Olympics shows a trend. Regardless of whether the overall race is a blisteringly fast 12:57 or a highly tactical slow 13:41, the final 400 meter required to win an Olympic gold is within a couple of seconds of 53 seconds. Let's look at the closing lap splits of modern champions. Bekele in 2008 had a final lap of 53.6 seconds, off a grueling 12:57.82 Olympic record race. Mo Farah's 2012 race was closed in 52.94 seconds, and that race was won in, as I said, 13:41. Jakob Ingebrigtsen's final lap in 2024 was closed in 53.1 seconds. Garouge closed his 2004 Olympic gold in 52.6 seconds. These finishing times are so close to the finishing times in the Olympic 1500 meters, which is just so impressive. Think about the sheer physiological absurdity of this metric. To win an Olympic gold medal, an athlete must run a 52 or 53 second 400 meter after completing 4,600 meters of continuous racing. This requires an extraordinary physiological trait: elite acid buffering capacity. The Olympic champion's body is uniquely adapted to neutralize this intense acidity on the fly. They can recruit fast-twitch muscle fibers even under severe physical exhaustion, maintaining a long, efficient stride while sprinting flat out down the home stretch. If an athlete cannot close faster than 54 seconds in his final lap, the data says he will not win an Olympic gold. When we assemble all of the components of our analysis and build our 5,000 meter runner in a laboratory, the blueprint for an Olympic champion becomes perfectly clear. Success in this event is not based on luck, and it cannot be achieved through a great kick alone. It requires a highly optimized combination of physical traits and tactical execution. Here are the 6 traits our runner must have to win an Olympic gold. Our runner would be in their mid to late 20s to be able to have had the time to train for a monster aerobic engine. 2, they would be around average height for men and women, being 5'9" 9.5 inches for men and 5' 2.5 inches for women, and a BMI of below 20 and below 19 for women, maximizing their power to weight ratio. 3, they would have to be at least world class in the 1500 meter or the 10,000 meter, ideally both. 4, they would have to have the fitness and tactics of a rhythm monster or a surgical kicker, being able to squeeze down the pace in the later laps of the race, or be able to run comfortably in the pack and swing wide and go for glory in the last lap. 5, they have to be able to survive and position themselves in the top 2 or 3, maximum top 5, between 4,200 and 4,600 meters. This is when the elites of the elites come out and shine. And finally, 6, they have to be able to close within 1 to 1.5 seconds of a 53-second last lap off of pretty much any pace. The 5,000 meter is brutal that way. You can't make up too much time in the last lap but you have to close fast to secure the win. 5,000 meters remains one of the greatest tests of human endurance and tactical intelligence on Earth, and as the data clearly shows, the runners who stand atop the Olympic podium are those who have mastered the physiological engine and the high-speed chess match required to dominate on the track. Which events do you want to see me do next? Let me know down in the comments down below. And on that note, I'll see you guys next time.